Okay. Hey, Oaklawn, welcome to another one of our digital articles for the May issue of We Are Oaklawn, the Oaklawn UMC magazine. Today, I have with me Cliff Bohaker, who's the Director of Finance and Operations for the church. He is really important to what we do on so many fronts, both on the finance side and on the facility side, especially now in this time where we are, gosh, a lot of you know, we left the sanctuary when it was in the midst of renovations, and we're basically told we couldn't go back for a while. So the work has continued in the sanctuary, and so I thought what we would do is talk to him a little bit about how that's been. Maybe we can convince him to show us the sanctuary and the progress, and then I think he has something he wants to share with us at the end because he's pretty great. So I've got some questions for you, Cliff. First question, how close are we to being done?
Great question. So we are getting closer each and every day. The latest timeline that we have from the vendor completing the restoration has things pretty well buttoned up right before the Memorial Day holiday. So we are definitely anticipating that week of the Memorial Holiday Monday break when we get back, that things, either will be completely finished or, some very small detailed items will need to be completed. But we are so close, and it's such a great thing to see the progress that's made every day as they keep working.
Tell us a little bit about, and also just to point out to everybody that's watching this, look at behind him. That was where we were worshiping for like how many months, and now it's back to the hospitality center. So some people remember what that looks like. Some people probably don't. It looks like the stained glass is gone behind you too.
Yeah, it's the light coming in from the stained glass. I actually was hoping to sit over there so people sort of would see the stained glass, but the light coming in really was too much of a reflection, and it was really washed out. But yeah, this is we'll sort of show you our first attempt at decorating or redecorating and relocation. I'm certainly not a decorator, and I know we have some folks within our congregation who do that as a profession. And so we look forward to the opportunity for them to come back and say, maybe we should place that over here instead. But we were really trying to be intentional with the creation of the space and allowing some space for smaller social gatherings and just the ability to create a little more of a community atmosphere for groups and folks after service who want to get together and talk, as opposed to just a wide open space that people can stand and congregate in.
Right. You know what I just realized too as I was talking to you, I don't know that have people seen the stage in the fellowship hall?
That the stage is gone?
Yeah, or the lack of stage. Maybe you could show us that too. I think
actually, I'm not sure that there was much opportunity to see that work as part of the projects that we were working on before we had to shut down. But yeah, very exciting as well. Created a whole new look and feel of a different space, and again, just an opportunity for more social space and better usage.
Yeah. Okay, so now I know that so you're working at the building and you're tucked away in your office, which is nice for social distancing. And I think Brenda's been coming in here and there, maybe Pat here and there, Curtis here and there. But I also know that JJ Houston has workers coming in and out. So like, how have you guys coordinated that in terms of just keeping everybody safe and like, making sure precautions are in place? And tell me a little bit about how that's been going.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, we have some staff here that aren't clergy who help handle the community outreach programs and just facilities. So Curtis, Brenda, and Pat, and they've really been spearheading taking care of the community meal program. We've been able to continue to run that in a to-go style, and so they come in on Sundays and with gloves and masks on, and we have some face shields that were donated to us by Dallas Hope Charities, which was really great as an additional layer of precaution. And then for the community meal, what we've done is we've set up a situation where we have some cones outside where people spaced out at 6 feet, so people know to sort of stay at the cones and then come up one by one and we have some tables set up where they're reaching over one table to sort of create that 6-foot space distance. So usually what we do is the four of us, if we're in the building, we'll send a text or some sort of communication just saying, I'm planning on being in the building and between these hours, so that people are kind of aware of where people are. And then when it comes to JJ Houston and the workers that they have going on, you know, I pretty much stay in my office as much as I can. And so there's a lot of not really shouting, but loud talking back and forth between me on the inside at my desk and then them on the outside the door, sort of staying staying away from each other. And then, you know, when we do need to look at things within the sanctuary, or there are questions where we need to be a little closer, then, you know, we all have face masks, and we just take as much precaution to protect ourselves as we can.
That's good. I know it's so nice to have, you know, I miss being in the building and having people like wandering through that, like Mike would come through, or Scott would come and wash rags for Union or whatever, and you would meet and encounter different people. And it's kind of weird to think that being in that building, you might encounter somebody and be like, it's kind of the opposite of.
Yeah, and you know, I will say I've always been a fan of large, old, historic buildings and castles and those types of things. So, I mean, you know, it's kind of cool because I'm here often a lot by myself with nobody else here, and you know, sometimes I find myself going down to the first floor and just walking through the labyrinth of dark hallways because it's just kind of a cool thing to do. So, you know, for anyone who likes large old buildings, and this is the place to be.
Yeah, that's hilarious. That makes me think we should build a labyrinth downstairs, because how fun would that be?
Okay, anything is possible.
Okay, my next question is, I skipped this one because I got distracted. What is new about the sanctuary? Because I know one of the things that Jeff Green, who was our primary consultant for architecture and design, and then of course we worked with other companies to carry out the work. One of his goals, which was agreed upon by everybody that had a voting voice, is that there shouldn't be too many drastic changes, if any, to restore it to as best of its ability what it originally looked like really maintain that authentic. But there are some things that are different. So tell us a little bit about, I know you might show us later, but tell us a little bit about what is different off the top of your head.
Sure. So I think one of the most exciting things about the restoration of the sanctuary and this project was folks who have been will remember the old carpet in the sanctuary. And as we were going through the project and realizing that carpet needed to be replaced, when the carpet was taken up, they discovered some really special hardwood floors underneath that were made from a very specific and special pine wood. And so the decision was made to not put carpet down again and to just refinish those floors and stain them so that the true look and feel of that space is present. So that was a real change in the sense of how it looks, because now it's all wood versus carpet. We've also tried to improve on visual aid communication type aspects. So we have a new sort of sound booth, if you will, in the back where folks who will help run sound and media will be located. And then they're not in the sanctuary currently, but we have a couple of large screen flat panel televisions that will be placed at the front of the sanctuary during service, so that as we enjoy service together, not just Oaklawn, but Gracia Viva as well, that we have opportunities to visualize some of those components of worship. So not too many large changes as far as design or structure, some more just aesthetically changes that have occurred.
And just based on looking at that TV behind you and seeing how small it is, just knowing you're as close as you are to it, can you tell me the size of the TVs that are going to go in the sanctuary?
Sure, they are 89-inch televisions, and when we go into the fellowship hall, we actually can share those with you. But they're quite significant. But it allows folks at all social distancing and at all different areas of the sanctuary to really be able to see in and participate in some of those visual aspects of worship, which is what we're trying to improve on.
Yeah. And it was kind of interesting before all this happened. You remember JJ Houston like put some tape on the walls to see if we could build the TVs in, and then like people stood back in the sanctuary, and I wasn't there for it, but from what you told me, they were like, you can't read anything that far back. So it was amazing to see how big of a screen we needed for people to be able to see. But then the other cool thing about the screens is they're mobile, so we can roll them in and roll them out for whatever kind of service is needed. So I think that's pretty cool. And the camera, we've got a new camera that I get to start playing with. And hopefully we'll have, you know, some things like ProPresenter to project onto the screen. And
we have some new microphones, and so communication. And then we also have some listening aid devices. So that was one of the things that we were lacking previous to this sort of system upgrade in the sanctuary of technology. So for individuals who attend who may need some hearing assistance, we have some of those new devices so that they can fully participate in worship as well.
That's awesome. Okay, so let me see what else I've got on my list here of things to ask you. I'm curious to know, well, you and I are both on the leadership committee that's been put together to research and consider what we need to research and consider to eventually go back to the sanctuary. And so we know that work is being done, and it's important work. So y'all, if you're watching this, pray for us. It's really important work. But I know one of the things that we've been talking about, and I've kind of been hearing in the panels that I've attended, and even in our first meeting this week in that committee, that working group, is this idea of going back to church to the way it was before, or is that even really, is that what we need to think about doing? And so it's kind of a complex question in that I'm curious from your perspective, you know, both knowing what we do in outreach and what facilities we need, and also like the programming that you've seen us do digitally, like what do you see the biggest need of our building is, or the way it's going to be used? Like, how do you see it being used once we're able to go back? Is it going to be just the same as normal? Like we go in there on Sundays and then maybe open it during the day for prayer, or like what have you envisioned as how we're going to use the building when we are finally able to go back?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, that's a bit of a complex question. You know, we have different areas of the building that we've been looking at doing some work on for a period of time, and in phases to improve some of the programs that we have, like the community outreach, and how we can better reach and provide more services to individuals than we currently have the capacity to do. So I think as we first come back into the space, I think the noticeable difference will really be just the shift back into the sanctuary from the hospitality area, because we were in that smaller space for so long. I think it's going to feel like we've gone from a small church into a mega church, because I think people, you know, we've been out of that space for so long that I think people will feel like we've now jumped into this really large space. I do think it's going to provide us the opportunity. I think we'll see more folks reaching out to host weddings here, and some of those types of things. But I think short term, when we get back, there's not going to be really any impact on the programs that we offer. So once we get the approval to move community meal back inside, that will take place back in the fellowship hall, where people can sit around tables and sort of have that community meal together. But outside of that, I think when we first go back in, there won't be too many changes. And then, you know, long term, our goal, or one of the goals we have, is to do some work on the first floor to renovate that space and create more of a community hub location where all of our community outreach programs occur, just from an ease of servicing people and having more programs available.
Makes sense. I was thinking when you were talking about that, it might also feel like the time that we were in the hospitality center was like a weird dream.
Well, I think it's gonna feel like, you know, because we haven't been in the building for so long, I think it's gonna feel like, you know, it was 2 years ago or more that, you know, we were in that space. And, you know, it's funny how 12 weeks can quickly feel like a year. Yeah.
I mean, I remember one time being on a military training that was not that, it wasn't unenjoyable, but it was just difficult. But it was only 4 weeks. But I remember thinking, like, when I woke up the first night back in my bed, I was like, did that happen? Did I just, it was such a drastic change. So who knows? But those are all interesting points. So, okay, I know you have something to share with us also. So do you want to share that and then show us, or do you want to show us and then close us out in your thought? I think that would be better.
Yeah, I'll do sort of a tour, and since I'll have to be using the camera away from me, you'll have to just sort of, I'll be able to hear you just say like left or right, so I know if you can see what I'm trying to show you.
Okay.
So we'll start down the dark hallway to the fellowship hall.
It is a dark hallway, isn't it? Look at those beautiful televisions.
And actually, so for folks who may, if you participate in an overnight warming shelter, you probably had already seen the television sort of sitting in the center between these two that we installed this year as well. Yep, these are the two portable screens. One will go on each side of the chancel area for visual parts of worship.
Okay.
And then back here at the back of the room, there used to be a stage that was in place. And, you know, as we looked at usage of this space and conversation with the leadership of the One Board, the decision was made that if we took that space out, or the stage out, we actually could create a more usable room for our events as well as external events that occur. So
here, tilt it down a little bit because you're looking at the window. Yeah, perfect.
So that stage area came out and it went from one wall to the other, and there were kind of a couple of weird bump out areas that were like bookshelves. So it came out, and then the whole room got a repaint, and
Nice.
so now we have this more functional space.
Nice, cool. And the Oak Lawn sign is gone.
Yep, that is right now. It's in the youth area, childcare area, I guess, youth childcare area, and then at some point it will get mounted, I anticipate, downstairs under the sanctuary, which used to be sort of the entrance for brides to come up as they were going into the sanctuary.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess hospitality. So again, what we tried to do is, as you can see, there's still all the hymnals and stuff are out because they're working on the pews, but we've created a couple of different seating areas for community, and then we've separated over here in this area. We've currently put a separate table, so for smaller type meetings, but there is some internal conversation about future use of that, which I won't disclose yet, but is a very exciting thought, and this area may look different as well.
Maybe it'll be an office.
Teaser. So this is the space between, lights don't work, between the sanctuary. So again, this used to be carpet. It is now tile.
Wow.
You can see the tile. So it's a really, really great, and the carpets have been, the stairs have been recarpeted with new carpet that ties into the flooring. And again, as you mentioned, Jeff Green was really instrumental in helping with some of these designs, and Mary Adam Bodie was as well. Instrumental in picking out some of these things as we looked at how we utilize the entire building and the spaces of that. So we are.
You just started glowing like you walked in and the light hit you.
So we have pews.
Okay, go slow so people can really see it.
And so before I go to one side, don't panic when you see that there is a section of pews that's missing, and I'll explain why that is.
Okay.
So we do have pews installed, and as you can see right here, there's kind of a section of pews missing.
Oh, but that's where the 88 seat is. Yep.
Yeah, so one of the things we did as we did the restoration for the sanctuary was we added some ADA components into the design of that. So we now have a couple of spots, one on each side, for individuals who may have ADA needs of a space that aren't able to sit in the pews. So that's sort of what this space is here. And then again, we have Hughes. The thing at the back there is the media station.
Nice.
And there's the camera Mara was talking about.
Yeah, that's my toy.
One of the other items you'll see as we kind of go back is we've added some glass to the center set of doors here. They used to be solid wood. We've added some glass so that it creates a little more of an open atmosphere as you come into this space, but also for security purposes, it allows us to sort of see what's going on out there. And again, another ADA space here.
Nice.
The other significant thing that we did here as part of the restoration is we added an ADA lift within the space so that anybody with mobility challenges can get up to the chancel and participate up on the chancel. So that's kind of the lift area. We've created this sort of stage here that can be used for individuals if they are preaching that may have mobility issues, or if there's a soloist singing or anything like that. So we've added that new as well.
Cool. Wait, from there, give me a pano of the sanctuary from where you're standing.
Okay.
Yeah.
The upper pews are not installed yet, but those should be all installed at the end of next week.
Wow,
And for those of you who are, and for those of you who are familiar with the frog has been placed back home, up above in the rafters. And I don't know the full story of the frog, other than at some point a frog I think was being tossed by a youth or something in the sanctuary, and it ended up on the rafters, and so it has lived there for a very large number of years. And it was one of the concerns about restoring the sanctuary, is not to lose the frog, to make sure it's kept safe and is put back in its resting place. So that has occurred, and the vendor kept it safe during all of the work that they've been doing, and it's now at a point where they were able to put it back, and so it lives back in its home.
Nice.
So
thank you so much for showing us the sanctuary. That it's funny, you and I had talked about like not wanting to show people it being done before it was really time to see it, but I know that even though we got to see it, that doesn't at all compare to what it's going to feel like to be together in the sanctuary. And so I'm happy to see it, but I know it's going to be way better when we're all in there singing and able to hear each other and see each other. And wow, so
absolutely.
That's good. So yeah, okay, so you have something to share with us now. So the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, first, I would really like to thank each of you for tuning in and spending this time with us. We know that it's a time of great uncertainty, and I would like to again echo what I know has been said many times already by others here at Oak Lawn, that we are here for you, whether you're a longtime member or have a longtime connection with the church, or maybe if this is your first time with us, that it is because of each and every one of you that makes Oak Lawn what it is and who it is. It is because each of you who continue to say, "So will I," that we continue to touch the lives of so many individuals. While I may have the most amazing singing voice when I'm in the shower or driving the car alone, I won't scare you with singing here on camera. I'll leave that to those individuals in the congregation who have amazing voices. I would however, like to share with you the lyrics of one of my favorite religious songs. It's one that you may be familiar with, but if not, I would recommend Googling it and taking a listen. It's by Hillsong United, and it's titled "So Will I." So I invite you to close your eyes and hear these words. God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time, with no point of reference, you spoke to the dark and fleshed out the wonder of light. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapor of your breath, the planets formed. If the stars were made to worship, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you've made, every burning star a single fire of grace. If creation sings your praises, so will I. God of your promise, you don't speak in vain, no syllable empty or void. For once you have spoken, all nature and science follow the sound of your voice. And as you speak, 100 billion creatures catch your breath, evolving in pursuit of what you've said. If it all reveals your nature, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you say, every painted sky a canvas of your grace. If creation still obeys you, so will I. If the stars were made to worship, so will I. If the mountains bow in reverence, so will I. If the oceans roar your greatness, so will I. For if everything exists to lift you high, so will I. If the wind goes where you send it, so will I. If the rocks cry out in silence, so will I. If the sum of all our praises still falls shy, then we'll sing again 100 billion times. God of salvation, you chased down my heart through all of my failure and pride. On a hill you created, the light of the world, abandoned in darkness to die. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. Where you lost your life so I could find it here. If you left the grave behind you, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you've done, every part designed in a work of art called love. If you gladly chose surrender, so will I. I can see your heart 8 billion different ways, every precious one a child you died to save. If you gave your life to love them, so will I. Like you would again 100 billion times, but what measure could amount to your desire? You're the one who never leaves the one behind. Thanks for joining us. Hope you all have a great day.
Thank you for that, Cliff. It was beautiful. See y'all later.
Ciao.